So just a reminder, ball and a rolled towel. If this is just a kitchen towel, 3 rubber bands around a kitchen towel. I know you all have done this with me before, but it feels like it's small, but it's actually very big. It's a very powerful thing to use. You don't, what I want you to make sure you're not using is a foam roller. There's a time and a place for a foam roller. This is not the time and the place for the foam roller. And then a squishy ball. So we're going to do a little bit of self-care within our practice today. It's not going to be all restoratives, but it's going to be it's going to have a vibe, a little bit of a vibe like that around it, just to make sure that you're giving yourself some love along the way. A lot of times our physical practices of exercise and whatever else, whatever other things you do besides yoga, can lend themselves to kind of go go go. There's so many forms of exercise where we're very focused and very moving strongly with a lot of will, and it's important to make sure that we have the balancing act in our lives of practices that are also very nurturing and supportive. So recovery and pre-covery, things that kind of get you prepared for exercise, both of those things are really important. And I know that I tend to neglect that part of my practice a little bit more than the vigorous parts of my practice. So I want to make sure we have a chance to do some of that. Okay, so sit up straight and tall and take a moment to drop your awareness into your body. And maybe you were hoping like, oh, I need to go like gangbusters today. I have all this energy, and that's fine too. We're gonna get some of that moving in our bodies. So allow what's on hand for today. So if you resist recovery practices, if oh, I should roll on that ball, or I should do this breath work, or I should do that restorative pose, but what holds you back from kind of carving out time to really commit to restorative practices? So as you close your eyes, let's be thankful for some time in our day to care for yourself, to be present with yourself. Feel into the spaciousness of your spine. How are you sitting? Is this how you typically sit, or do you tend to slump a little easily? So, support yourself, commit to the strength that's required for an open spine, but only that strength, not more. So be efficient so that you can also find ease. Melt through your eyes. Let your face, your whole skull relax and soften. Relax your shoulders and let the base of your skull find some ease, maybe a little bit of bobbling of your head to make sure that those muscles are relaxed. And then take notice of your heart space. Can you expand like your collarbones can kind of feather out like wings? The heart can be open without a pressing forward or a compression in the back of the body. With this spaciousness that you found, invite your breath in. Invite your breath out. Notice if you are a breath holder, if you're a short breather, where you don't let very much breath in. See if you can experience the fullness of your breath in all of its ways. So the fullness of the inhale, that slight pause, and the fullness of your exhale, and that slight pause. Explore and enjoy your breath. Notice if it's hard to be patient for the breath to take its course. Often this is just the mind being a little rapid, so slow the brain down, slow the thoughts down. See if you can allow your mind to rest within your breath. That it can be refuge for your thinking mind as much as it's refuge for the body. When you are ready, place your hands together at your heart. And just take a moment to offer an intention. Allow yourself to be in this moment and restrain the impulse to be in the past or future. Just be here now as best as you can. And release the hands, and let's find our way onto our back. Okay, so again, make sure you have your squishy MR ball and a rolled towel. All right, so as you come onto your back, let's find the comfort of just being horizontal. What happens when you lie your body down? What happens in the body? What happens in the breath? What happens in the mind? Okay, and then let's stretch the arms overhead and feel that length. So reach the right side a little longer and then the left. Just opening up your side bodies, your shoulders, your hips. And then bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a little hug, rocking a little bit, swaying from side to side if it feels nice. Let's circle the knees, kind of rolling in one direction, rolling in another. Let's open up your knees away from the midline and bring them back in toward the midline. Breathing fully and deeply. Right knee coming in, left leg long on the ground. See if you can wiggle your toes, roll through your feet, let things open up a little bit. Be mindful of resting your head and your shoulders. Really good squeeze in that knee. And then bend your left knee and put your hand on your right foot, half happy baby pose. Just feel a little deeper compression in the hip, letting the knee release down toward your side. And then relax that, and we're going to put the right foot on top of the left knee. Okay, go ahead and draw your left knee in, so a reverse pigeon pose on this side. So grab onto the back of the thigh or the front of the shin. We're going to just rock a little bit if you want to, or be very still. Head is heavy, opening up the hip a little bit. This might be big, a very big stretch for you. Might feel like, oh, this is just a nice stretch. So just notice what is. Take the pose in stride in whatever depth that feels good. And then release your left foot down onto the ground. Bring your right leg straight up into the air and interlace your fingers behind your right hamstring. And let's flex and point this foot in the air. Try to get into the calf, let it open up. Point your toes, roll around in your ankle if it feels nice. And then press your thigh into your hands and drop your femur bone down. Release that leg all the way to the floor. 2 legs are straight. And just notice, you might feel a difference between your right and left leg. Notice what having a little bit of added perception or, heightened perception of your body can feel like. And then now let's do the left side. Left knee into your chest, give a good squeeze. Feel free to move around your toes and your ankles. Okay. Press in with your hip, press in with your knee. All right, and then bend your right foot, put it on the ground.
And, or bend your right knee, put your foot on the ground, grab your left foot, half happy baby pose here. Sometimes I hold this with two hands. Just feel a deep compression in your hip. Allowing your knee to kind of descend down toward your side body. And then we're going to cross that left foot over to the right thigh and lift your right leg up and interlace your fingers behind your right hamstring or in front of your right shin. Be very mindful that your neck and shoulders stay relaxed in this posture. Head is heavy on the ground. If you like movement, add movement, a little rocking. If you like stillness, find stillness. You can also hold your right knee with your right hand and press your left hand on the inside of your left knee. There's so many ways to go about kind of finding the openness of your hip here. And then let's release the right foot onto the ground. Interlace your hands behind your left thigh. Right leg can be straight if you want on the ground. You don't have to keep it bent, your choice. And then have a moment with your ankle, flex and point your toes, kind of feel into all that fascia and goodness in your foot, in your calf, and your shin. And then press your femur bone into your hand, drop your hip down. Feel the extension through your spine. And then release that leg, starfish your body. Excuse me, starfish your body out. Limbs are wide. Let's roll our wrists here and roll our ankles 2 or 3 turns each direction. And then draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug. And again, open up big and wide. Feel that big open spaciousness. Exhale into an embrace. Relax your head down onto the ground. Put your feet on the floor and just pause here for a moment. Okay, find your breath and windshield wiper your knees, left and right. As you move back and forth with your knees, just start to feel into the movement of your hips. See what it feels like to have a sense of breath that's coming with the movement of your spine. Go ahead and roll over onto your side, grab your rolled towel. Okay, so we're going to have the rolled towel. We're going to start it. I think all of you have done this, but of course I'll review it. We're going to start this high, kind of on the spine of our scapula, the ridge line of your upper scapula, but really just find a place that feels good for you to begin. We're going to move this towel all the way down our spine, but we're going to start up high. So the first thing that you're going to do is bend your knees and put your feet on the ground so that you can kind of get a handle of rocking top to bottom, crown to tail, north to south, right? So we're pushing off our feet to rock on this towel. Like I said, it feels subtle to just have a little rolled hand towel, but it's very powerful for releasing a lot of tension through your spine. Okay. All right, so once you get the handle on the movement of with your legs, and you want this to be nice and gentle, you shouldn't be getting fatigued. Your legs should be able to manage this by just kind of pushing off your heels. And the 3 positions with your arms while rocking is hands right over your chest. So this mimics a little bit of flexion in the spine. And then arms over your head, which mimics a little of extension in your spine. It's not mimicking, it's actually creating a little bit of extension in the spine. And then your arms back over your chest. You're going to turn your head right and bring your arms over to the right to have a little bit of rotation in the spine. And then back up and bring your hands over to the other side, to the left, and head turns too. So those are the positions: flexion, extension, and rotation. Once you pass through all those, then you can drop the rolled towel a little bit lower down your spine and start rocking again. Now you're going to find places in your spine where you're like, oh, I love that. And if that happens, just stay there. There's no rush in the realms of self-care. One of the beautiful things about recovery practices is that usually once you get on the floor and get started with them, they feel so good that you want to keep doing it, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of getting carving out the time and getting the props out and doing it. And then once you're in it, you're like, oh, why don't I do this more often? And of course, all these things are best done when your attention is fully present with them and you're doing nothing else. But maybe that doesn't happen. And maybe it would happen if you were watching TV or listening to music or listening to a podcast or having a conversation or having a friend or someone in your home doing this with you. So there's no rules. It's really just about what's going to help you actually do some of these self-care practices. Make sure you're breathing. Some people whip through this very quickly. Some people move very slowly. You do you. There's no right or wrong way to go about this. You can just keep moving that roll towel down your spine in little increments. If you get fatigued with the rocking, try to figure out what you're doing with your legs that could be a little bit more efficient. Like I said, you do not have to rush this. When you find a place that feels really good, hang out for a while. My experience with this roll towel practice is that the more you do it, the more you figure out how to do it, where you get very efficient in the practice itself. So it doesn't feel awkward or choppy, that, the rocking starts to get very fluid in your body. That you start to discover little nooks and crannies in your back body that perhaps you were unfamiliar with before. We can hold a lot of tension in our back. Okay? So there's so many muscles, not only that the ones that we see, those kind of like ropey ones that go down the whole length of the side of your spine on both sides. Those are your erectors. But you also have your multifidus muscles, which are tiny little muscles that connect one vertebrae to the next. And these are very important muscles. They're very good at stabilizing the spine. They're deep in the body, and they, are important. So giving them a little bit of love is never a bad thing. Not only do you have lots of, then those are only two groupings of muscles to mention, there's more, but not only do you have muscles, but there's a lot of fascia and, all sorts of tendons and ligaments and things that keep your spine held together. So let's give them some love too. All of this rocking and moving is bringing a lot of blood supply to the area, a lot of proprioception, interoception, like your nervous system is turned on. You're gaining awareness, you're gaining mobility, and it should feel good. This should be a nice, happy thing. So just like when we find ourselves being impatient to observe the breath, you might find yourself being impatient at times to just kind of not wanting to take the time to do this. But most often, once you get going, it feels so good that you're glad you're doing it. Now, if you've gotten down to your low back yet, you might notice that once you're in your low back, you lose a little bit of the pressure. So a little bit of that sensation starts to go away. And if that happens, when that happens, you can forget about the movements of your arms, and instead you can just bring your knees to your chest and just do a little bit of rocking to and fro. So top, bottom, kind of pulling your knees a little closer in and then releasing them. Of course, if you want to rock a little bit side to side, that's great too. But you never ever want to put a foam roller in your low back like this, only something small and soft. Your low back is a very vulnerable place because there's no other bones around to support it, like your pelvis or your rib cage. So you want to be very mindful about what you stick under there. I would not put anything super hard underneath your low back. So you might take 2 or 3 passes in your lumbar spine. Again, you can be still, you can be rocking top to bottom, you can rock a little bit side to side. And try to keep this kind of flow of the rocking, that it's the rocking itself is very good for your nervous system. It's not even just the tissues that you're touching and opening, but it's also just the feeling of rocking is very soothing to the nervous system. Now, I'm not sure, you could still be up at your shoulder blades. I'm just now entering the top of my sacrum. I'm moving faster than I normally might if I weren't teaching this. I think I go a little slower when I'm just deeply involved in the process for myself. But I want to make sure we get around to some other things. So I'm at my sacrum, and once you get to your sacrum, and no rush, be where you are. You can take as long as you want for this. Once you get to your sacrum, put your feet back down. And usually the top of the sacrum, you can still find that rocking action. Now it might feel like, why bother with the arms? Still bother with the arm positions. It may not feel like it's doing anything for your sacrum, but it actually is. There's a transfer of energy of your body, knowing that it's flexing, extending, rotating, that moves into your sacrum. Okay, so you might be able to get a couple of passes through the sacrum before you also feel like, oh, now I lost the sensation again. And when that happens, then you can straighten your legs on the ground, so just your heels are on the floor, and you kind of rock off your heels, so flexing and pointing your toes, so that you have that rocking still happening with a little bit of pressure of the towel against the bottom edge of your sacrum. And you might find, 1 or 2 passes with your body in this position. And now if you're already done, just go back to your favorite spot until, it's hard. I can't see any of you, so I don't know how far along you are. But of course, as I move on to something else, if you're not ready for that something else, then you just keep doing what you're doing, or take a pause and don't go down your whole spine, and maybe come back to it later. So your choice. Once you're ready to stop, pause for a moment. You can either have your feet grounded on the floor or legs straight, and breathe into your full spine. Notice the impact that this has had on your nervous system. All right, we're going to stretch our body out. Exhale, knees into your chest, and come rolling onto your side. Come up onto your hands and your knees and find all fours. All right, so we're moving through some cat-cows, and you might notice something here, that there's just a little bit different kind of awareness. Maybe the fullness of that posture feels good. Maybe, that massaging of your spine has made you a little sore. Just whatever you're finding, just notice. And then move your spine around any way you want. So you can circle through your pelvis and shoulders and head. You can wag your tail. You can continue with some extension and flexion, whatever works. And then we're going to drop back towards child's pose when you feel ready. Arms overhead, drop your seat down toward your heels. Walk the hands over to the right side of your mat and open up the rib cage for breath. Feel the settling of your sit bone. Inch your arms over to the other side. Feel that weight drop into your pelvis. Let your head relax. Come back to center, come up onto all fours. And then drop your toes underneath, so curl your toes underneath and just stretch back towards child's pose, letting your feet open. And then coming back onto all fours, right arm lifting up in the air, feel that extension. Exhale and slide the shoulder under and feel that deep rotation now, much deeper than what we did on the towel roll. Breathing well. And now come out of it a little bit so that you come back towards child's pose with your legs, but your arm is still somewhat underneath you. Feeling the outside of your shoulder stretch open. Reach that arm back up in the air. And then hand comes down. Change your sides. Arm up. Exhale. Slide that arm through. Twisting. Breathing. Full inhale. Complete exhale. Find facing the ground. And so collarbones widen, just stretching the outside of the shoulders, the hips come back toward the heels. And then reach that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground, dog pose. So stretch and open up through your sides. Feel your feet if you want to pedal, letting your legs open up a little bit, moving your hips, moving your knees, moving your heels. How's your breath? You kind of transfer that nervous system relaxation that the towel work did for us and bring it into every pose that comes. Drop your weight, feel the yielding, give to the earth, maybe relax your eyes closed if it feels nice, bobble your head, root your hands well, index finger mounds, find them, feel the reach of the heart space up toward the pelvis. Let's walk our feet forward, come to Uttanasana, fold deeply, knees can soften, relax your skull, a halfway lift, gather your spine into some length, exhale and relax again. Climbing up, arms to the sky, finding breath, maybe a little cactus open, and then release your hands down onto the ground. Shake your wrists, give your hands a good shake here. Inhale, lift up, look up, maybe reach back a little bit. Release your arms down, interlace your hands behind your back, open your collarbones, hug your shoulder blades toward your spine, bend your knees and release your arms overhead, let your neck relax. Soften your arms down toward the ground, grab your two blocks. Inhale for a halfway lift, spine grows. Exhale and melt again and fold. Step your left foot back, right foot comes forward, coming to a lunge. Waking up the legs, bending and straightening the front knee. Find your breath rhythm, open up those hamstrings, open up the hip flexors. To a lunge, place your back knee down, unless you don't like that, in which case keep your back knee up. Find that opening through your hip flexor, breathing well. Now you get to decide, maybe today you're having a little restfulness and you keep your knee down. Maybe you'd rather put your knee up and come into a full crescent lunge. So either way, rising up with your arms, unless your arms are happier somewhere else, ground into your legs. And let's open up the chest, put your arms anywhere that serves. And then release your hands back down onto the ground. We're finding a twist. The back knee can be up or down. You can have your left hand on the ground and the right arm in the air. You can have your left forearm on your knee and twist open. You can take your left elbow to the outside of your knee and twist open. Find a twist, whatever works for your body. Breathe your way here. And release your hand down. Both hands on the ground. Now step back to dog pose. Notice the difference between your two sides. Ground into the fullness of your hands and your feet. From that place of yielding, rise through your spine. On your next breath in, come forward to a plank. Feel that centering, that support system of your body. Where do you feel it? Can you feel your ribs? Can you feel your core? Can you feel your glutes? Find all your strength points to support this posture. Put your knees on the ground. Find the earth. Roll the shoulders a few times here. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale and relax to come back down. Again, maybe arms want to go in a different place. Just find a little bit of a back bend on your in-breath and a little bit of release on your out-breath. Third time. Lifting up wherever your body goes. Exhale to melt. Back onto your hands and your knees. Move your spine about, release the back bend, back to child's pose. Feel the breath. Let's bring up onto all fours, and now our left foot comes in front. Lift up your back knee, hands on blocks, start to move. Breathing well as you open through your legs. Find movement. Enjoy touching in, not only to stretch and awaken, all the muscles, but really to just have the gift of being inside your body. Body awareness. How's your breath? And let's put our knee down onto the ground. Feel the rising of your spine. Your hands can stay on blocks if you want. Just feel the openness of that hip flexor of your back leg. Feel supportive of your front. So try not to sink and let the knee splay out. Your choice whether you want to pick up your knee and come into crescent lunge and rise up. Maybe today you're taking more rest and you'd like to keep your knee down on the ground. So find the pathway that's right for you. Arms can be on your hips, arms can be out, anywhere that serves. Full breath, neck is relaxed, soften the skull. And let's find our right hand coming down onto the ground. Maybe this is the twist you choose. Left arm in the air. Maybe you go a little deeper and bring your forearm onto your knee. Maybe you go a little deeper and the elbow comes to the outer knee. So it's okay no matter what you're doing. Your back knee can be on the ground. Your back knee can be up off the ground. Find your twist. Root your front big toe. See if you can feel the front whole foot stabilize you. How's your breath? And then relax. Bring your hands back down, back onto all fours. Child's pose. Soften your skull. Find your way to your breath. Walk your hands forward or your knees back. Your choice, puppy pose. Chest comes down. Forehead might touch the floor. The hips are on top of the knees, so we're not back in child's pose. Come forward, lift up into dog pose. Maybe your feet want to pedal some more, maybe stillness is where you're at. Find your way into the fullness of the back leg stretch. So heels descend, sit bones lift, spread your toes. Walk your feet forward, Uttanasana. And rise all the way up. Take your legs wide on the mat, so turn sideways. Bend your knees, come into goddess pose with your chest facing, parallel with the floor. Elbows inside your knees, stretch open through your inner thighs. Drop weight into the four corners of your feet. Feel free to rock a little bit. You can sway from one side to the other if it feels good to do so. We're going to put our hands down onto the ground or onto blocks. Straighten your legs, toes facing forward. Find your way toward the ground with your skull. Wide-legged posture, soften your head. All right, with your hands on the blocks or on the floor, you're going to bend your right knee, keep your left leg straight. Just stretch the whole inside edge of that leg. Coming back to center, over to the other side. Okay, coming back to center, turn your toes out. One more deep squat, elbows inside your knees. And then come all the way up to stand. Standing star, heel toe your feet in. Find your breath. Pause here for a moment in Tadasana. How do you feel in your body? Is, moving through, there's some deep stretching helping you to be embodied. Are you grounded? Inhale, arms coming to the sky. Fold forward. Relax your head. A halfway lift. Melt and relax. Back to a dog. Now we're only doing this to transition, so you can come down onto all fours or however you like to do this. We're going to come into pigeon pose. If you know that pigeon pose is not a good posture for you, then you get to move into reverse pigeon pose. So we're going to open up our hip, however your body likes. Right foot is forward first. Okay, so for some of us, our heel is very close to our pubic bone. Others pull it out a little bit. Square up your hips no matter where you are. Take a look back at your leg and make sure your back leg is straight, not kind of moving out to the side. And notice if your foot is sickling, see if you can keep everything kind of straight and flat, kneecap and top of foot. Lengthen through your spine. And as you come forward, grab a block to stick under your head so you have that support in place. Once you're in the pose, you might find, oh, my knee hurts, my ankle hurts, my hip hurts, whatever it is. Do you need to adjust something? Do you need more support? I have a blanket underneath my my front sit bone and my back thigh. Other people like it just underneath their front sit bone. Some people have no support. You can take as much or as little as you want. The spine is growing. Relax your shoulders. Melt here. Breathe here. Come back up. Out of the pose. And you can come into dog pose and lift that left leg up and swing it forward if you want, or you can just transition to the other side. You might need more or less support underneath your hip for this side. You might be flipping over onto your back. So find whatever is working for you for this posture. Check in with your back leg and make sure it's straight and your foot is not sickling. Kneecap is on the ground. Hips are square. Extend your spine and come down. So, you know, how a lot of times you just need to do a little bit of tweaking here or there to get comfortable. So your heel can come closer to your pubic bone or a little further away. You can bring your left knee a little further out to the side or closer toward the midline. So just adjust until you get to a place where your body says, okay, I can settle there. The last thing you want in a posture like this is to battle yourself. So try to lose the, the internal struggle of having to guard against going too deep. See if you can find support so that when you go into the pose, there's a deep sense of ease, that you're not resisting, holding, guarding any place in your body. How is your breath? Can you melt your exhales? Can you let those subtle tension patterns dissolve on your breath? When you feel like you're balanced, where you've spent as much time on this side as you did on the other, let's go ahead and find our way out of there. We're going to come lie down on our side, on our right side. Okay, take any support underneath your head that you need. Just relax your hips for a moment. You're going to reach to grab the front of your left ankle and stretch through your quad here. So you try to avoid the knee lifting toward the sky. Try to keep your knee in line with your hip. And you can pull that knee back a little further. You can stretch your knee away from your chest. Just find that you're not kind of moving into a big arc in your back. Stabilize your pelvis. The tailbone descends toward the knees, pubic bone lifts toward the belly. See if you can relax your head on your arm or on the block or whatever you put underneath it. Relax. Back onto your back, 2 knees to your chest. Rock a little bit, sway from side to side. You're going to roll right over to your left side now. Support your head with a blanket or a block if you need it. We're going to grab onto our right foot and stretch that. Now, if you can't reach your ankle, that's okay. Wrap a strap around it. All right, move your tailbone toward your knee, your pubic bone toward your belly. Kind of keep your chest open so that you're not just collapsing into a rounded spine. Stretch your whole femur bone. See if you can move your femur bone away from your chest. Stabilize with your pelvis. Keep the knee in line with the hip instead of letting it lift. Notice if your neck wants to hold tension. See if you can soften and let go. Okay. Let's relax. To come out of there, come onto your back, knees to your chest. Put your feet onto the ground. You're going to grab your ball, your smushy ball, and once you are in this posture, you can decide whether you need more or less inflating. Now, this is a little different than when we do it on the block, so lift your pelvis up and stick this underneath your sacrum. Okay, so not in your low back, under your sacrum. And if you feel super wobbly, then you might want to put a little less air in there. You want to feel that you can just rest in this position. Breathing deeply. If you feel like your legs have to stabilize you or your inner thighs are kind of tensing, you might want to put less air in the block. Now, this is different than putting a block underneath you. It's a little lower, perhaps. It's a little less stable. Let's let the breath travel into our sacrum and let the lack of stability be a sense of mobility, where the breath can move the sacrum. You can feel the breath traveling into the pelvis, and that the pelvis can respond with subtle movement to allow the breath in. You can also try taking your feet a little wider or a little closer or a little further away or a little closer to the pelvis or closer to each other. Just experiment what feels best to you. Now see what you can do to melt into this block or into this ball. Keep letting the breath travel deep into the pelvis. Feel your low belly move as you breathe. All right, now we're going to lift our knees toward our chest. I'm just deflating my ball a little bit, so it's a little too full for me. Okay, so we're going to lift our knees toward our chest. Sometimes having the ball not very full can feel really good. So when you practice ball in these ways, practice different inflation levels of the ball. Okay, we're going to come off of there, roll down onto your back, and just rest here for a moment. Okay, now we're going to set up for Supta Baddha Konasana, and I want you to pull out every prop you possibly have to do this so that you have a lot of support. Now, of course, if you prefer being flat on your back, that's fine too. You can decide how you want to be. I'm going to make a little perch with my bolster on top of my blocks. I'm going to take a blanket underneath each of my knees. And then I'm going to use my very, very smushy ball that I even deflated a little bit more to act like a pillow underneath my head. And I'm gonna come into Supta Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together, knees are wide. Now, if you're gonna use this ball very smushed up, put it under your neck, not just underneath your head. And you may not like it. You may love it. You may not like it. So do not do anything you don't love for this posture. It's just suggestion. You can also take the rolled towel and you can put that underneath your neck, right at the base of your skull or somewhere. Just experiment. You know, if you like your head to be a little lifted, maybe you'd rather have a teeny pillow there. Maybe nothing. Okay. So let your body really experiment with all sorts of ways of propping yourself in this pose to find what's just right for you. What is right for me is not right for you. What's right for you may not be right for me. So you have to find for today, for you, for today. if you have extra pillows, I would recommend lifting your forearms up a little bit so that you really truly feel like you're in a nest. Once you're comfortable, allow yourself to deeply surrender into this pose. Again, patience with your body relaxing, patience with your breath. Stay here. Or if you'd like to transition to Shavasana, go ahead and Come out of this pose. Of course, you can stay here. You can stay here for another half hour if you want to stay here. Doesn't matter how long one being is posed. But if you're ready for a transition, take that transition to Shavasana. If there's any posture that you want to do to release, like knees to chest or a twist, by all means, take any pose your body's calling for. And as you find Shavasana, perhaps you're still in Supta Baddha Konasana, perhaps you'd like to use the props differently or no props at all. The body rests. Whatever feels good. Your body's chance, a deep surrender. To melt your limbs, melt your spine, melt your head. Come as relaxed as you possibly can. Soften through your face. Soften through your brain. Move into your breath. And to transition. Before you do, just one more time, melt the body, feel how good it feels to rest, body, the mind. And then invite movement however feels right to you. Take your time, move slowly out of Shavasana. Eventually finding your side. Coming up to sit. Once you're in a seated posture, let's just explore the gift of restoration. Being gentle with yourself, tending
to your body in this way, what it offers you. Let's share our presence with another. Send your loving kindness, your energy to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.